Okay, welcome everybody. This is, well, it's kind of week one go-to session, part 1.5. This is a Q&A session that every instructor in the English department is holding because of the special circumstances this week. First of all, I hope everybody read my kind of long welcome announcement where I explained the particular challenges we're facing this week. Did people have a chance to read that? I should say, to the two people here, are we aware of what's going on this week? Have we took a look at the opening documents, the explanatory stuff that you had to read for this week? Yes, no, maybe so. The specific challenge we're looking at, of course, is the Thanksgiving break, which happens starting Thursday. But I know that Wednesday people might be traveling. And I'm not naive. I realize it's a long holiday, right? It lasts not just Thursday, but for a lot of people, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Obviously, that interrupts our schedule kind of severely, and yet we still have to move forward. So there are things that we need to start moving on. There are things that we need to start working toward. Because, yeah, your first graded activity, for example, is due Tuesday when we get back. But obviously, if we have this long interruption, it would be a good idea if people could get started on that. So you're not coming back from the long weekend rushing to get everything done. So the first place I'm going to go to is if we look at the home page. Okay, let me go. Actually, let me go to our class. Okay. This is going to be a list of the activities, right? And the big one to focus on right now is if I scroll down, always you see these things week one lecture, week two lecture. This is where the recordings of the go to sessions are always held. And normally I would be hosting a full go to session, not just a Q&A session like I'm holding tonight, but a full session on my own. Oops. But in this case, because of the interruption, you actually have the first lecture already recorded and ready for you to watch. I'm just trying to find out where it is. Can someone help me? Marvin, Matthew, where is that thing? Is it under the week one lecture or is it under the overview? Okay, yeah, there it is. Okay, so under the week one lecture, you already have this video to start watching. I'm curious, Marvin, Matthew, you're the only two people here. You're the only ones I can ask. Have you watched this video yet? And if you say no, that's okay, because the people who watch the recording of this session will get useful information anyway. Have you watched this? While I'm waiting for a response, I'm going to continue talking. It's crucial. Matthew says no, not yet. I don't know, Marvin. Marvin says about 30 minutes of it, to be honest. Okay, that's fine. But it's pretty important that everybody, not just the two people in the room here, but the people who watch things after the fact, yeah, we need to watch this lecture. This lecture, which probably runs an hour and a half, is what I would be hosting live. But in order to get people moving, we've already have it recorded and up and running, so that we don't lose any time. Like typically, I would host this session tonight now, but obviously with the interruption, that makes no sense. And because we're going to lose a lot of this week anyway, because people are probably more interested and they're thinking more about Thanksgiving than they are classwork, and because people tend to treat Monday and Tuesday of week one kind of loosely anyway, yeah, we've just gone ahead and given you the recording of the week one go to session. In future weeks, I will be hosting the full sessions, but it is crucial that you watch this first session because it explains not just what we're doing this month, but what the first assignment, which is due Tuesday, is all about. It's a discussion board assignment that requires research. And actually, I'm going to switch. Oh, real quick, two quick reminders I want to point out. Anytime you have to send me a message, please use this envelope icon up here. Okay, what that is a direct message that will go right to me. And when there's a message waiting for me, my little envelope lights up orange like it is here. So there's actually a message waiting for me right now. Okay, see, someone wrote to me. The problem is that if you look at any activity, whether it's a graded activity or an ungraded activity, students always have the option to leave me comments. So, for example, let's say you read the course overview or the McGraw-Hill registration. Lots of people had questions about McGraw-Hill because I guess there are some textbook problems. Specifically, the registration codes are on back order. So, if you did not receive a registration code for McGraw-Hill in your Full Sail email account, you need to contact FSO, and I'm going to go ahead and type in the number in the chat box. This will kill two birds with one stone because not only will Matthew and Marvin get to see it, but because I'm doing a screen recording, anybody who watches this session will get to see it as well. Let's see, it's 877-437 6349. Okay, that's the number for FSO support. So anybody who's having textbook issues needs to contact this number. Probably right now they're going to tell you that the registration codes are on back order. This happened last month as well. It got resolved within a day or two, so hopefully it's not going to take much longer than that. And then you can complete registration. So guys, Matthew and Marvin, have you registered for the course yet? I can probably take a quick peek myself. Let's see, we're in December. There's the student roster. You're now seeing things from the instructors end. So, Marvin, it doesn't look like you were registered. And Matthew, it doesn't look like you're registered either. I don't know if that's just because you haven't gotten around to it yet or if you're waiting for a textbook code. Matthew says he has a code, he just needs to go do it. Okay, that's fine. And you still have time. So if you haven't done it yet, I'm not here to criticize people or make you feel guilty because at this stage, yeah, if you haven't watched this first video yet, wherever it is, I think I left it. Okay, you need to get caught up and you need to get signed up over at McGraw-Hill. But yeah, if you're having problems, you need to contact FSO support. I'm going to go into McGraw-Hill real quickly. Oh, let me go back and finish what I was going to say. So yeah, you have all these activities. So if you're having a problem with the McGraw-Hill registration, you might have felt tempted just to leave a comment for me right there and then, which is okay. The problem is if you leave me a comment, it goes to this other section, this little bell. It's called notifications, and I literally get a notification anytime you do anything. So, for example, someone submitted the week one reading. Someone signed up for the week one lecture. Okay, all these kind of ungraded things. I get a notification that this student has done that. So yeah, if you clear your throat, I get a notification. If you sneeze, I get a notification. The problem, if it isn't clear yet, is if you leave me a comment under an activity, it gets sent here, and it tends to get buried. Okay, I do get email announcements telling me that someone's left a comment, but it's just easier if it's really important that you need an answer for me to use the envelope icon because then I say to myself, oh look, it's lit up, someone sent me a message, they need a response. Okay, so keep that in mind. The second thing here is here's what the McGraw-Hill site looks like when you log in. You have readings, okay, that are due every week and they're labeled clearly, week one stuff, week two stuff. Okay, right. The readings are incredibly short, so don't blow them off. Some of them are only a single paragraph long, so when we say readings, it's not like you're reading entire chapters. They're all pretty short. The important stuff, though, or the more important stuff, I should say, are these guys here, the Learn Smart Achieve modules. You have 4 of them for each week. Okay, these are interactive modules. I'm not going to click on it, but if I do, it's going to walk me through the steps so that I can set up the module. And basically, it's a series of short lessons that you then have to answer questions. And when you successfully complete the module, you're done. They're graded by percentage that you get complete. So if you get 100% of the module finished, it might take you, some people are really fast at it and can finish it under an hour. Other people might take an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours. But if you finish it to 100%, you get all of those points. If you get 87% finished, and the module shows you how far along you are, but let's say you get 87% of the way through the module, then you get a grade of an 87, okay, a B plus. So please finish or complete these interactive modules. I like to call them gimme points. They're like easy points. You just do the module and you get all of those points, and there are 4 of them, and it adds up to 20% of your grade. So really, that's like 20% that's just handed to you if you'll take advantage of it. Same thing with these weekly check-ins, which are quizzes that you have to take. There are four of these as well. They're also worth 5%. So that's another 20% that you can easily take advantage of. Professionalism, which is a month-long grade. So as long as you hand in your work on time, as long as you're more or less appropriate when you communicate with me, that's another easy 10%. So there's like 50% of your grade, which is almost, I shouldn't say it's handed to you because it does require some work. Um, but it's not the most terribly difficult work in the world. And I shouldn't say this, but if 50% of your grade is an A, you would have to really, really try not to pass the class. Okay, so if you can set yourself up to be in a pretty good position, I know lots of people want to do more than just pass, of course, but yeah, you set yourself up to be in a really, really good position. So please stay up, keep up with those interactive modules over at McGraw Hill. Okay, let me get into the core of what I want to talk about. Okay, so welcome to English Composition. I hope we're going to have a fun month. It's going to be an intense month because, again, the holiday interruption, it's going to feel kind of more like 3 weeks than four, but that's what we have to deal with. The good news is it's going to feel fast, so it will be over with before we know it, and we'll have Christmas upon us. There's my name. I'm more than happy. I'm more than comfortable to be called by my first name, David. I know some people aren't comfortable doing that. I realize that Full Sail puts a lot of emphasis on professionalism, and certainly that's important. So you never want to call an instructor by their first name unless they make it clear somehow that they are okay being called that. But I'm telling you now that I'm perfectly fine with being called by my first name, so you can do so. But I want to talk real quickly about some issues related to what we're working on this month, and specifically what you need to do for the first assignment Tuesday. Some of this may not make complete sense, but I'm going to try to alter it a little bit because you need to watch that first video, the hour and a half one, for this to make complete sense. But in brief, okay, everybody this month is choosing a role model, an industry role model, okay? So just out of curiosity, Matthew and Marvin, if you don't mind, if you could go ahead and in the chat type what your field of study here is at Full Sail. Everybody is choosing a role model, okay, within their industry, and they are going to research how that person has persevered. Okay, Matthew says he's in game design. Okay, so you would have to choose someone within the video game industry. If you can choose someone who's specifically design oriented, that's fine. But I'm open to anybody within gaming overall. Marvin says digital art and design. Okay, so same thing with you. Marvin, your industry, it's not that your industry isn't difficult, but some people have it easy. For example, if you're in music production or recording arts, basically the music industry, it's kind of you sort of have things paved a bit easier for you because you can literally choose a rock star to write about. Like literally, people can choose. People have written about Jay-Z or Kanye West, but in certain industries, you may not have rock stars. But you're going to have to choose a role model to write and research about anyway. But okay, you're choosing a role model and you're going to research how that person has persevered. And I have a definition here of perseverance. Okay, perseverance is the human story of how someone has overcome obstacles, faced adversity, or shown remarkable commitment to achieve a goal. Now, you're going to learn a whole bunch more about perseverance when you watch that longer video. So I'm not going to talk too much about it now. I'm just reminding people what the definition is. Okay, but yeah, you're not choosing a role model and writing about why you admire them. You're not choosing a role model and exploring why they're inspirational. You're not writing a report on your role model. You have a very, very specific task, which is to research how your role model has dealt with challenges, okay? How they've overcome obstacles, faced adversity, solved problems, dealt with setbacks, okay? Because that's what perseverance is. But real quickly, here are two things that perseverance is not. Perseverance is not a biography. The good news is I don't get many students who confuse it with biography anymore, probably because I really hammer home this point again and again, month after month. But yeah, early on, sometimes students would write, literally like reproduce someone's life story on the page. Right? Eminem was born in Detroit, Michigan on such and such date. Then he attended high school. He was raised by a single parent, and then this happened, and then that happened, and it's almost as if the writer is saying, "Look, look at this person's life story. That's perseverance. And no, that's not perseverance. That's just someone's life story. Perseverance is actually what's behind that life story. It's a selective look at particular instances in which your chosen role model has overcome things. Okay, and this is important for you guys at Full Sail because you're all entering industries where you'll have to show perseverance in order to succeed. So why not learn a little bit about what that's like by looking at someone in your industry who has already gone through that? Real quickly, perseverance is not just a listing of someone's accomplishments and achievements. So, yeah, sometimes a writer might say things like, so and so won 10 Grammy Awards. Or maybe someone who's in a tech oriented field, like here at Full Sail, we have mobile app design. And maybe they're writing about, I don't know, Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg. And they'll say, look at Steve Jobs. Look at all the great products that Apple created under him: the iPad, the iPod, the iPhone. That's perseverance. No, that's not perseverance. Perseverance is the story behind those things, right? It's the story behind those accomplishments. So if there was a particular challenge that Steve Jobs had overcome in designing the iPhone, for example, okay, that would be an example of perseverance. But to just list what he did, or to say, so and so won 10 Grammy Awards, that's perseverance. No, the story behind what they've done, what they've accomplished, could possibly be perseverance. Is this making sense in general? Because it's important for you to understand what perseverance is before you start tackling your research. And that's really the primary activity for Tuesday. And the longer video explains what you need to do. You're going to need to find 3 good articles related to your chosen role model. 3 articles where you're learning something about perseverance. And then the specific details about what you need to do are covered in that video. They're also covered on the assignment sheet. Okay, so you can learn the specifics there. But in essence, yeah, that's what you're doing. You're finding 3 articles, and then you have to write like 2 paragraphs, a summary paragraph and a reaction paragraph for each of those 3 articles. But real quickly, here's some research tips and tricks. The longer video you still need to watch, covers some of this, but I'm going to add some stuff that the video doesn't cover. This is just stuff that I've picked up over the months. This is what I tell students a lot, so I'm going to present it now. First, make sure that you choose a role model who has enough written about her or him. Okay, you might need to have a second or third choice. This is crucial. So, for example, Matthew Marvin, I don't know if you already have people in mind that you think you might want to write about. But let's say, Matthew, your first choice for someone in game design, yeah, maybe he's someone who's worked on your favorite games. Maybe he's a really cool personality. You follow him on Twitter. He's active in social media. But then when it's time to research and find out how he has persevered, you're not finding much. Simply because there's not much written about him. He hasn't participated in interviews, or the interviews he's done are really short and casual. Maybe there aren't really in-depth articles written about him. You better have a second or third choice. Because I do see it not often, but maybe a handful of students. So out of 50 students, I might have 5 every month who sort of paint themselves into a corner. Despite my strong reminder to have a backup, to have a second or third choice, they get stuck with the person who doesn't have much written about them. And that can just lead to problems. Second tip here is that, okay, there's a list of forbidden research types, like stuff you're not allowed to use. You can see the assignment sheet for this full list. It includes things like Wikipedia. It includes things like online bios. Other obvious things like online dictionaries, online encyclopedias, IMDb, fan-oriented websites, personal blogs. All that stuff that really isn't research. It's not a quality article written by someone. It's just, it's either too vague or too broad, like Wikipedia, or it's written by someone that you can't trust, like a fan or a blog writer. However, I do think it's okay to begin with a forbidden source if it helps you get going. Okay, so for example, a student might read an online bio in order to discover an obstacle that her or his role model has overcome. That way, the student can then do targeted research into that. Okay, so yeah, an online bio is fine. as a place to begin. It's just not your finish line. It's not something that you would actually use in your paper. It's not something that you would reference as research. It's not something that you will post to the discussion board before Tuesday as one of your three articles that you found. However, if you want to begin there to help you find your three quality articles, hey, that's great. Same thing with my second example here. A student might go to Wikipedia because you probably know this. At the bottom of any Wikipedia page, there's a references list, and there might be good stuff on that references list. So I'm okay with you beginning with a no type of source if it helps you get to where you need to go. Some other tips and tricks. Yes, use the Full Sail Library database and internet to search for articles. And sure, use relevant keywords. Things like perseverance, obstacles, setbacks, challenges, failures, etc. But I strongly recommend just looking for solid in-depth articles in general, okay, even if it doesn't seem to be directly about perseverance. Why do I say this? Because from experience, again, I've been teaching this assignment for, I don't know, 5 months now. And early on, students would feel frustrated because they weren't finding specific articles that were directly about perseverance. I mean, sometimes they did, but lots of times they might have struck out. And then I'd help them do research, and I would find terrific articles. It's just that they weren't specifically about perseverance, and that's when I realized something. And this is my second bullet point here. An in-depth article or interview will probably touch on, on issues of perseverance almost by accident. Okay. At the very least, that in-depth article may help you go in the right direction. So, an in-depth article or interview, maybe it mentions something in passing that isn't dealt with very much in that article, but hey, it helps you know what to look for. Okay. And finally, here I say that you might need to read or skim half a dozen or more articles to find the best three, and that's the goal here. Not just to find any three articles. You're trying to find the best three articles. And if that seems like a lot of work, I would say, well, in some cases you could probably get away with skimming because you can tell pretty quickly whether it's going to be a useful article or not. Second, I would say that if you're choosing someone that you're interested in and that you care about, it shouldn't feel much like work at all. Like if you gave me the task of researching someone that I admire, someone that I really, really love, I'd be like thrilled to do that. Okay. By the way, anytime anybody has questions, just go ahead and ask them in the chat, and I can answer them. We are getting near toward the end. I think I promised that this would take 15 minutes. It's actually running more like 25. But here's some final tips and tricks. Here's a list of publications that are worth checking out just to see if they have anything written about your role model. So if you need to take a screenshot, you might want to do so. Or you could just rewatch this part of the session. I am recording it. But places like the New Yorker, the Atlantic, the New York Times, Vanity Fair, and so on. For instance, I hate to put who is it? Who is in game design? Matthew. Matthew, have you ever heard of a person named Cliff Blazinski? You can say yes or no. I'm gonna go ahead and type his name in. Yeah, there you go. Gears of Wars. Is it Gears of War or is it Halo? You would know better than I do. I'm gonna go ahead and type his name in the chat, just so people who watch this session can. Okay, so Matthew knows who that is. 1 month, and I'm going to switch real quickly to the internet to show just an example. So I was helping out a student because he was writing about Cliff Blazinski, who is better known as Cliffy B. Okay, that's like his social media handle, and that's what I think people call him. But one day, because I was just looking for articles, I put in Cliff. I hope I'm spelling his name right. If I'm not, it was Blezzinski. Actually, I think I put feature article. Cliff Blazinski feature article. Okay, and look what happened. Okay, the first results I didn't recognize, but look what happens for the third one. The New Yorker pops up. Or I could have done a search for Cliff Blazinski, the New Yorker. And if I click on this, if you're not familiar with the New Yorker, it's one of this country's finest magazines, and they only specialize in really, really rich, in-depth articles. And so here you get a very, very long article all about this guy. If you don't know, the New Yorker is also a pretty I don't want to say highbrow, but it's intended for a pretty educated audience. So you might wonder why are they talking about this video game guy? Just because, video games are serious topics, or the New Yorker is able to treat different topics from all around in ways that are interesting, so that even an audience that maybe doesn't play video games could still find value in it. But I'm gonna scroll down. I'm trying not to talk as I scroll because I've been told that my voice drops out when I do so. But you can tell just how long this thing is, right? Now, if you're a student, you might be thinking, "Oh, I don't want to read all that." I would say that first, if you really care about your role model, you'd probably be more than happy to read it. You'll get lost in reading this, and you'll enjoy it. But second, what are the chances that this article probably does touch on some issue of perseverance somewhere in it? I'd say pretty good. And I've had students specifically use this article. And that happens just because if we're testing to see if any of these publications have written about your role model, you might get results. Other times you might strike out. And I'm certainly not suggesting you have to go through every publication here and try it out. Okay, but yeah, if I'm going to write about J.K. Rowling, you might Google J.K. Rowling, the New Yorker, just to see if the New Yorker or Salon or the Rolling Stone has written about them. I also like to do more general searches. For example, J.K. Rowling feature article, or J.K. Rowling cover story, or profile article, or video interview. You can also search for videos, or interview article. Okay, so an interview that's in text form. And as my note indicates here, what I'm just trying to do is find good articles, because what I realized early on teaching this assignment is that yeah, half the trick is just finding good articles. If you can find good articles, chances are you're going to learn about perseverance. If not, you're at least going to learn about things that send you in the right direction research wise. Also, if you read enough about your role model, you'll then become a sort of mini expert on your chosen person. And that's always good, because if you can become a sort of mini expert, then you can write with confidence. Then you can write as if you really, really know this person. Not personally, but you've researched the person. Um, and you can touch on matters of perseverance almost kind of, I wouldn't say without effort, but it will come much easier if you've sort of done that initial hard work of searching for articles, skimming or reading several of them, and really just trying to be as open-minded as possible when you look for what's out there. Okay, I think that's my last slide. Yes. So now my question is, oh, it looks like someone just joined us late as the session's about to end. But that's really what I wanted to go over today. Just introduce you to the course in general and give some real quick tips and tricks. I have a train that's passing by my window now, so I can't hear what I'm saying. For the research component. So if you have questions to ask, now is the time to ask them. For example, Marvin says, is there a limit to what type of visual artist I can research, or do they have to be in my specific field, digital arts? I mean, could they be a painter, for example? Great question. Marvin, I would say if you can find someone directly in your field, that would be ideal. But if you're striking out, okay, so don't give up yet. I'm not sure who famous people in your field are, but yes, I know from experience that people who are in graphic design, digital arts, and design, is that sort of your field? Graphic design slash digital design. Um, Okay, yeah, I know from experience that that's a tough field because you can find people who are sort of famous. People like, what are some of the names people have written about in the past? Saul Bass, have you ever heard of that name? Or, oh gosh, I know so little about graphic design. I know so much about other people's fields like music and film and creative writing, but graphic design I know nothing about. But yeah, it's challenging because even the most famous people in your field, sometimes they don't have as much personal information about them, or sometimes they haven't done many interviews that speak to personal experience. Think about the way that someone who's in film or is in music or even video games, there's kind of an interest level there from people, readers, audiences who want to know about that person's life and what they've done and what they've gone through. Whereas with graphic designers, it's less so. So, yes, that's a long winded way of saying yes. If you're really striking out, and if you can truly choose, for example, an artist who is important to you as a designer, I would be okay with that. I would strongly recommend finding someone who is hopefully current. Because here's the problem: when people try to go too far back in time, if you pick Da Vinci, that's going back a little bit too far. It's and we haven't gotten to more specific details about this assignment, but in addition to discussing your role model and how he or she has persevered, you also have to cover what you learned from your role model's perseverance and how you can specifically take what you've learned and apply it to you as you go on your path in your industry. And that's hard to do if you're picking someone who's like dead and long buried, or someone who's from the 19th century, or someone who's too disconnected. Okay, so maybe you choose an artist, but it's difficult for you. In other words, I can see potential obstacles that come your way if you pick someone who's too distant. But yes, if you're really really struggling, I'm open to. It's kind of like Matthew. If he can't specifically find someone design oriented. By the way, what's the difference between game design? Is game design the coding part of it, and game art is more the artwork part of it? Game art is the challenging side, I think, to find game artists who have a lot written about them. But the people who actually are the ones who are building the games, creating them, sometimes they have more information written about them. But the same thing with Matthew. If he, for some reason, is just striking out, I am open to anybody in the gaming industry, okay, to write about. Matthew says it's more of the middle routes, storyboarding. Okay, yeah, so you'll have to get back to me. And that's kind of the other piece of advice I'd give is feel free to send me messages, to run your role model by me, to ask. I mean, I can't do your research for you, but if you're really, really struggling, you can. I mean, I can also try to help and just take a quick glance and either confirm whether I think your role model is maybe a little bit too challenging and if you should move on to a second choice. But yeah, make sure that you choose someone who's going to work for this assignment. I know that's frustrating because everybody wants to write about someone they truly love, someone they're truly excited about, but hopefully you have a second or third person you're excited about too. Okay, other questions about anything, the general course information, or just the really introductory stuff I've gone into about perseverance and research. Again, it's going to make a lot more sense once you watch that longer video. Okay, this is just technically a Q&A session. Okay, I'm gonna hang out for a little bit. If you're comfortable with what we've gone over, you can feel free to go enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks so much for attending. I sort of anticipated low turnout for a Q&A session, but I was happy to see a couple of people showed up. And you know, it's going to help. You're welcome, Marvin. It's going to help. People who attend these sessions tend to do better on assignments. So, thank you very much. And again, I'm going to hang out for a little bit and answer questions if you have them. Adios, Matthew. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.